Here's a bunch of things in Star Wars that have been messed up by the prequels, sequels and TV shows. Rogue One makes out that the Death Star's exhaust, a natural element for a large spaceship, was some deliberate act of planning rather than a weakness discovered from analysis.
Well, the thing's got to have a tailpipe.
Rogue One also implies that there was no secret about who was involved in capturing the Death Star plans. In Star Wars, Leia denies it like it's only a suspicion.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But Vader literally saw her drive off. The dude could have even got a number plate. In Solo, a Star Wars story, they make out that the reason Han has the surname Solo is because he was on his own when he was travelling.
Solo?
If he'd shown up at the spaceport with a bunch of bags, the guy could quite easily have called him hand luggage. With the introduction of Darth Maul, it suggests that Darth is a Sith title rather than a specific name that Darth Vader has, i.e. Dark Father, which is a little bit of a giveaway, but still, Obi-Wan literally calls him Darth.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
During their fight on the Death Star. That's his name. Stupid name, but it's his name. The whole prequel trilogy, and Order 66 in particular,
Execute Order 66.
being just 20 years before the original trilogy, makes it somewhat unlikely that the Jedis would have become a myth or legend. It was literally 20 years ago, and Order 66 is probably still active. Tarkin says their fire has gone out in the universe.
You, my friend, are all that's left of their religion.
But I've got t-shirts from 20 years ago that I still wear, and not ironically. Seeing the Falcon do the Kessel Run in Solo, a Star Wars story, again, destroys some myth and legend element of the whole thing. In fact, it would have been cooler if it wasn't Han or even Lando that had done the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Han even says,
"It's the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs."
it's the ship that made the Kessel Run. I thought that's what it was going to be. When we get to The Force Awakens, how cool would it have been if that legend and myth had grown?
This is a Millennium Falcon.
And the story is it's the ship that made the Kessel Run in 11 parsecs. You know how people exaggerate.
What the hell is an aluminum falcon?
The Clone Wars series shows us that Obi-Wan never served Leia's father in the Clone Wars. When she messages him, it's like she's speaking to some guy she's only heard about through her dad. But Obi-Wan never served her dad. In fact, the Obi-Wan TV series shows that Leia and Obi-Wan met each other and went on an adventure. So surely Leia should remember him from that. Oh, it was a long time ago, you say? Well, here's what's weird. Princess Leia claims to remember what her real mother was like.
Do you remember your mother? Your real mother?
Just a little bit. She died when I was very young.
Her mother dies the day Leia was born. So Leia clearly has a great memory, or someone forgot a really important part of Star Wars when they were making the Clone Wars. At the end of The Phantom Menace, Yoda says, "Always two there are." Yet, when the Emperor and Vader are discussing turning Luke to the dark side, Vader says he'd become a powerful ally, which means he's planning to make him part of a trio. So what's all this only two nonsense? Vader and the Emperor want a non-traditional relationship. But the biggest one of all is what a liar Obi-Wan Kenobi turns out to be.
Hello there.
First of all, he claims that Darth Vader killed Luke's dad, but then the whole prequel trilogy shows us not only is that not true, but Obi-Wan definitely knew it wasn't true. The fact he backtracks in Return of the Jedi kind of shows us where he's going.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
But that's not the only place he's full of crap. He says he's never owned a droid.
Don't seem to remember ever owning a droid.
Well, even if you don't consider R2 to have been Obi-Wan's, he's got R4, and he's using him out in the rain while he's making Zoom calls. Obi-Wan also refers to Darth Vader as
A pupil of mine until he turned to evil.
No, even if we accept he's talking about Anakin, Anakin was never his pupil. Anakin was his Padawan. And in Empire, he claims that Yoda was the Jedi Master who instructed him. But the fact that Qui-Gon exists proves that's not true. Being an old man, you'd say maybe he had a bad memory, but he's quite clearly full of it. And finally, R2-D2 flying in Attack of the Clones means that for the rest of his life, he's just a lazy swine. Do you know how useful it would have been if he'd told everyone he had rockets in his feet? C-3PO being built by Anakin implies some really stupid continuity in this series. Like, surely 3PO is a standard model of which there are many made. We see loads of them in the series. And so the idea that Anakin has actually built factory matching specification model is pretty unbelievable. Where does he get the parts? Where does he get the metal body casing? All of that. The kid's a slave, and 3PO is a piece of super expensive high-tech equipment. It's not like today, we see a bunch of slave kids somewhere making iPhones or... Princess Leia isn't a princess. She was adopted by the Organas, neither of whom are royalty. So she's not a princess of Alderaan because her mom wasn't queen when she was born. So why the heck is she called a princess?
To me, she's royalty.
I have a sneaky suspicion they forgot this fact when they were writing The Phantom Menace, which is why they made Amidala a queen. And then by the time they get to the third one, they're like, oh, hang on a minute, Leia's not actually going to grow up as her daughter. Maybe they should have sat down and watched the Tridge before they started writing. In Empire, when Vader speaks to the Emperor, they talk about Luke being Anakin's offspring and what a threat he could be, as though they've only just learned of his existence, which makes sense because it makes it much more important for him to capture Luke and turn him to the dark side. But Anakin absolutely knew Padme was pregnant, and they didn't do the best of jobs even hiding Luke. In fact, Luke grows up living where Anakin buried his mom. Yeah, he might not go and visit her, but it's the first place I'd look. And the fact that Obi-Wan moves to Tatooine to spy on Luke don't make him exactly inconspicuous, does it? Yoda fighting in Attack of the Clones is the dumbest thing ever. It's the dumbest thing ever. I know some of you are going to say that it's cool, but it's not cool. You were 10. It's dumb. It's dumb. Tarkin says to Vader,
The Jedi are extinct. Their fire has gone out of the universe. You, my friend, are all that's left of their religion.
But in the Obi-Wan series and in Rogue One, we see that not only are there loads of Jedi about and Force-sensitive people, but the Empire know of them, and they even employ them as Inquisitors. The idea that the Jedi have disappeared into myth and legend, and that Vader is holding on to some ancient traditions, just doesn't fly. Making it sound like the Jedi is some distant sort of culture is like suggesting it's unbelievable that anyone would still like the Kaiser Chiefs. But the fact that Tarkin doesn't think Jedi exist anymore means he clearly never looks at any expense reports, and he has nothing to do with payroll. The sequel trilogy has literally hundreds of errors and continuity fluffs that completely mess up the entire original trilogy. But to be honest, I've only seen each one of those films once, and I can't really remember what happens in them because they were that boring.